not many times we get to sit down and talk, so I'm grateful. But first of all, I want to thank each and every one of you for being here. This book means so much to us because it's a story of overcoming. It's a story of survival. It's a story of triumph. So we wrote this book not intention of looking for any type of sympathy from our stories, but just wanting an opportunity to tell our story, to help heal, and maybe deliver a lot of people who have been through some of the things that we've been through. Can y'all hear me? Yes. So again, I just thank each and every one of you being here because, you know, you guys could have been in so many other places in Texas. I know she was saying how big Texas is huge. And I've only been here for years myself, but I had the opportunity to meet some amazing people, see some amazing things, and to talk about a little bit of my story in the book. And this is something that I just recently started to talk about because growing up, it was such a hard thing to talk about because it was, for me, it felt embarrassing, right? I felt ashamed of it because a lot of my peers, they joked on me about it. A lot of the foster parents, they spoke really negative to the foster kids. And I mean, it's like you would see stuff like this on television, but to actually live it and experience it is a whole nother thing. And I think that's why so many people, since I've started talking about my story, has asked me to come and speak in front of amazing audience of people telling my story because like a lot of people I have met, a lot of CASAs and caseworkers and all these other people that's in that field of foster care, a lot of them went to school to do what they do, right? Some of them never experienced it. Some of them never lived it. Or some of them never been in a room with someone who's, you know, went through some of I'm talking about the nitty gritty of it, right? So having the opportunity to get on these stages and be vulnerable is not easy, but that's one of the ways I've found healing. Writing this book has helped me find healing that I didn't even know I needed, right? To be able to channel back those stories and those moments, to write and draw pictures so other people can almost be there with you. You know, it takes a lot for someone to write about that. Because even when I was living it, I wanted nothing more than to be out of it. I wanted nothing more than to be normal. Well, what I thought was normal was, you know, kids going to school, going home to your parents, all of these family things, right? And it was amazing. The most amazing thing about that whole journey was that even though I had those kids that talked about me, joked on me, made it hard for me, I had those negative foster parents, the other people who I met in the community, at the same time, I used to have students in high school, in junior high school, that used to pull me to the side. They didn't want nobody else to hear. Rondregus, how did you get in there? I want to get in there too. Because little did I know, because I was so stuck in my own head of how scary that was for me, not even realizing that it was other kids still going through worse, right? We're not even thinking like that as kids. We're just thinking about, you know, we're having fun, are we fitting in with our peers, are we doing our homework, are we paying attention? Those are the types of things we're thinking about. But for those kids to pull me to the side and wanting the information how to get into foster care, that helped me realize, like, look, I'm not the only one that's dealing with this. And also, bad as my situation was that I thought it was, these kids were not going through, you don't know what. You know what I'm saying? Their parents probably not even at home. They probably not only eating at school, right? They probably getting abused, sexually abused, or mentally abused, or spiritually abused at home, right? But for years, I fought this system. And I'm not afraid to say it now. I used to run away, all types of stuff, because I didn't like the way it made me feel. It wasn't my parents. My parents is what I knew, right? So, but coming into the foster system, it took a long time for me to realize this is for my good. And I think when I speak to these students in these different schools, that's my main goal, is to help these kids that feel so misunderstood. They're scared, right? I mean, how would
Take your time, bro.
I mean, how would you feel if you was taken from the home of the only person that you felt like loved you? It's scary. This world is scary, right? So my main goal is to go in, teach these kids, like, look, this is for your good. Because prior to the state coming in and taking us out of the home, all I knew was the west side of town. All I knew was Section 8. All I knew was seeing my mama count this book of food stamps to feed us. All I knew was my mom trying to cut our hair because she couldn't afford to take it to the barber shop. All I knew was us walking, my mom walking me to school, which was a couple of blocks. It wasn't next door. That's all I knew. And that's the life that's all I knew existed. But when the system came in and took me in, it was scary. The different foster parents, white families, black families. It was just, I was able to see and experience life that I didn't even know existed. Right? And my whole thing is, sometimes you do have to take something out of a situation so we can know better. I didn't even know the other side of town existed. I didn't see the nice neighborhoods. I didn't see the nice cars. You know what I'm saying? I didn't see that. But when the system came in and showed me all of this stuff, I was like, man, life is amazing. Life is more than what I thought it was. Right? So now as an adult, I had all of these questions, man, like asking my mom, asking my dad, some of the stuff I never really got answers to. But I found enough strength within me to forgive them. Still love them. Because at the end of the day, that was healing for me. That was part of my self-healing. I had to forgive them. Single parent, 5 kids, in the 90s. I mean, it was kind of tough. So as an adult, I realized those little things, like my mind developed, I lived a little bit more. So it's like I could just understand certain things, but having a relationship with God is really what allowed me to sit here today. Because each one of any kid that go through that system, 90% of the time, they don't make it out. They don't make it to be something in society. They looked upon as a troublemaker. They looked upon as, just a bad asset. Nobody wants, them to be a part of anything they got. That's how it normally is. So for me to be able to, by the grace of God, found a passion that I was so in love with while going through foster care. I love fashion, y'all. I used to sit and one of my foster parents, she had this floor monitor TV. It was huge. And I used to sit and watch The Box. I don't know if you guys remember The Box, the music videos back in the day. Probably not. But I used to sit and watch those for hours. Not even caring about the lyrics. I used to watch the fashion, what they had on, the trends, what was in style, sports, anything that came on TV. I love the fashion. So I was like, man, I want to be in that industry. I want to be in that industry. And other people saw it in me too. They're like, girl, y'all don't have name brand stuff, but the way you put stuff together, how do you do that, right? So I was like, oh man, this got to be like a gift or something. I don't know, but I had my little brother. Every time they separated us, they put me and my little brother, me and him at the same dad. They always put us together. So I was always the one that was like seeing after him, taking care of him, ironing out school clothes, doing all of these things for the week, right? And I hated, like, why my foster parents making me iron our clothes for the week every Sunday? like putting our clothes, the shirt, the pants, laying everything out for the week. I hated it. But look how that molded me. Look how that, shaped me. I didn't even know it back then. But what I'm saying is, like I said earlier, going through those dark times in your life, there is a reason for it. There is a purpose. And sometimes we don't see it right then because we're going through it, right? All of the emotions are in us. Bing, bing, bing. But it's a purpose. And sometimes we don't realize that purpose till years later, right? So being able to make it through all that, find the right mentors, find the right people that can help direct me to get to that goal that I had of being in the fashion industry. 16 years old, I got discovered by a talent agency, and it was over since then. My first professional photo shoot was downtown Birmingham, Alabama, and at that moment I realized I want to do this for the rest of my life because of the way it made me feel. So that really helped me direct my focus to becoming something. What I felt like, I could give to the world. So went through all of that. So recently, I left Alabama, went to Detroit, stayed in Detroit for like 10 years, doing fashion shows, managing models, working with world-renowned fashion designers, doing all these things in the fashion industry. So I got to this point, I was like, no, this ain't it. I still feel like something ain't clicking, right? Came down here to Texas, and ever since I've been here in Texas, I've been having opportunity to do so much more than just operate in the fashion industry. With opening up and telling my story, I've been able to meet some of the most amazing people that genuinely care about these foster kids. And it's so amazing to see because a lot of these resources they didn't have back in the day. But to see so many resources, to see so many people that's really loving and caring on these kids is a beautiful thing to do. And to write this book, this is just a tad bit of what we do in the community. You know what I'm saying? Because it goes beyond this. It goes beyond the pages. It goes out into the streets. It goes out into the community. It goes into people's homes and people's schools and touching these kids because it's a lot of healing that needs to go on in this world, y'all. For real. And for you guys to show up just in support of this, what we're doing, it means so much to me because I didn't know how many people was going to be. I had a lot of people told me they was coming. Some people text me today like, oh, something came up or I'm not feeling well. I can't make it. That's fine. I totally get it. But this is so much. This is not even about Stephanie and I. This is about abuse, healing, bringing the community together to bring awareness about something that's much bigger than us. And that's what I stand for. My whole career, my whole years of going through foster care, agent out, all of that, I dedicate all of that to a greater purpose in what I'm doing now in the community. I put a little bit of my story in this book to inspire people, but I'm doing so much more out in the community to be an advocate and to be an asset and to let these kids know it's someone out here that do understand what you're going through. It's someone out here that can speak. Now, y'all may not have a voice because for some reason adults don't think that kids have minds and adults don't think kids can like comprehend and understand things. It's like we see all of that.
1 minute.
Yes. And seeing my mom and my dad separate, that was the hardest thing for me. Because little did they know, they probably didn't think that we was comprehending or understanding what was going on. But I remember the breakup. I remember the fights. I remember the arguments. I can remember the facial expressions. I can remember all of it. It's crazy by the grace of God. It's like how we able to retain all of that. For what purpose? And for God to answer that. For God to answer that, why he took me through all that, God, that is the greatest feeling in the world to have that why answered. Why did I go through that? Why was that a part of my story? And for God to answer that, and to back it up what he said, he backs it up. Opening doors, creating opportunities, meeting people that I never even knew existed for a greater purpose. That is what I'm about. That's what I'm passionate about. And that's what I'm going to continue to do. Because these kids need a voice. Thank you guys so much.